Good morning, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Helena. I'm the Executive Director with the Greater New York Chamber of Commerce. Very exciting today. I am really, really looking forward to this presentation. I just wanted to give a shout out to Zamana Analytics, and his name is Pierre. I think we met right before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had the chamber family on COVID every Tuesdays. We did Clubhouse together. We did a lot in, I hate to bring up, so many years ago and bring up COVID, but that's how Pierre and I watched the trends and not, when I say trends, trends about marketing and trends about growing your business. Because when we started, on our Tuesdays at 10 o'clock online networking, I always ask fun questions on how to grow your business. And we would get a pulse of the answers that people would respond back to. So and we would always listen to the businesses, where they're getting their leads from, how they're closing their contracts. And I would always say to Pierre, boy, it's come full circle. So before it was always, it was LinkedIn, it was Clubhouse, it was, social media, which it still is, don't get me wrong. However, now when we have these online, people are like in person networking, picking up the phone, talking to people. And, so when we talk about this with Pierre, with Zamana Analytics, he analyzes all this, and plus we did an AI for Dummies because he used to talk about AI all the time, and I'd be like, you know what? I'm a great marketer. I'm a great person to pick up the phone and chat with, but AI, I need 101 for Dummies, and he has it on Chamber TV. We have it recorded, so if you want to see that one, that is our first one. Pierre is taking it to the second level. I won't say next level because he understands there's a lot of people on here that are not proficient in the AI field, and that's what he wants you to become. So hopefully, Pierre, I gave a good introduction to you.
You
I
too.
appreciate your time. I appreciate your support with the chamber. Like I said, we go way back, and I'm going to turn it over to him. We do have it being recorded, so we can play it back, and it will be on Chamber TV. Put your information in the chat. We will be doing a chat answering the questions the last 15 minutes, and we have a hard stop at 12, respecting everyone's time. Pierre, thank you again. Take it away.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. And I seem to have this on my second presentation. So hang on for a second. I'm gonna do this. So it should adjust. Give it one moment. Um, uh-oh, we just lost it. Give me one quick second here, everybody. We just had it. And for some reason, my PowerPoint died on me. Yes.
Yeah, you had it.
Yeah. Hang on
It's
for
saying
one.
set up professional audio and audio settings. Did you do something?
I had pulled it from the second monitor. It's kind of, but it should not have shut down the way it did. Give me one quick second. It'll just take a moment.
Okay, just go back to the first monitor then.
Yeah, hang on for one moment if I can. So I don't see my,
Just bear with us, everyone. Technical difficulties always
yeah,
going something.
if I can find, it doesn't call up.
You want me to redo the share and
Um,
start all over?
yeah, let's redo the share if we could. That might help a little bit.
Okay.
Can you stop share your end?
I'm gonna do one panelist.
Okay.
And now
My cursor is not
now
coming
I'm
up.
gonna say multiple.
Mhm.
So you should get the share thing.
It Cursor is not coming up. Why is my cursor? Wait a minute. I'm still with you. For some reason, my cursor is not coming up, so it makes it hard for me to know what I'm selecting. Um, um, Here we go. Hang on. Um, Please tell me I don't have to restart.
We see the share is working because I see your cursor.
You see my cursor. Now, why is that?
Yep, black screen cursor. Do you want to just bear with us, everyone? Technical difficulties. Um, do you want to email it to me?
Yeah, let me, this screen is frozen.
Do
I'm
Control
trying,
Alternate Delete then.
yeah, hang on here. I saw some movement because I saw my, shoot. Why is it not?
Let me see something. It says Audible for whatever reason.
Okay. That helps me a little bit. There we go. Now, okay, so now I see my cursor. Give me one quick second. I need to get the menu back up with the the keynote. I think when I pulled the
Oh,
keynote, it didn't
no,
like that. Yep. Let's see. Not now. And
I
then
don't see anything. Let me try doing the share again. Now, because I see your cursor.
here we go. Okay. There we go. Okay. Apologize about that. Basically, can you see my presentation or no?
No,
You can?
it's just a cursor.
It's just the cursor. Okay, let me stop share. Let me do this.
Okay, let's go
Share.
back. Hold on, everyone. Share. I'm going to share host tools for share, multiple panelists. I'm going to do one panelist now and then change it to multiple panelists like we did before.
Okay.
So you have that now.
And I'm going to share the keynote.
Just do the basic one that you started with.
Yeah.
There we go. Just use
Yeah.
this.
Okay. All
We're
right.
back, everyone.
Yeah, we apologize about that. So, real quick, I apologize. There's two monitors I have, and for when I pulled the second one, for some reason it just got stuck. I think between this and Zoom, it was I couldn't see everything at my end, but that's okay. So we're going to breeze along through this. Real quick, just about myself, as Elena has mentioned, I have been working on analytics since 2009. Started my own business originally around Google Analytics, and I still work with clients around Google Analytics, but I also work with clients on data with different data points ranging from things on a spreadsheet to something within a database. And the whole point of this is to help people take that data and create insights from it, things that can help for business decisions. So I've been a writer for analytics for over 14 years with CMS Wire. I've been a conference speaker since 2014. I just got back from California last month from the Marketing Analytics Summit. I'm also an adjunct professor at two universities, Trine and Champaign College, and also an instructor with the American Management Association as well. So without further ado, let's get into some of these things with AI. We're going to talk first about prompts, how to use basically in general. There's a lot of things with AI that have emerged in the last year. We did our last presentation back in December of 2024, the AI for Dummies. And since then, there's been a lot of different models. There's even local models, which we won't get into that one too deeply. But what we're going to talk a little bit about is what you should be looking for in planning out your prompts, and then also what you should be looking for in using your tools. And there's one big one that we're going to talk about, which is called projects. So when we get to that, I'm going to swap a little bit on showing where that is, if we can do that very cleanly. If not, I may do that at the end. But one of the things you want to keep in mind before you AI, before you start using a model, is you need to think about your use case. Most people, when they type in at the prompt window for AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Gemini, whether you use Claude, which is one of my favorites and one of the ones I use quite a bit, a lot of times people will ask simple questions, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that when you want to do with a prompt is that you want to give a little bit more specificity about what it is that you want as an output, particularly if you start talking about business output. things like a presentation, things like an image, things like maybe a documentation that you want to see. There's some things you need to jump into with a little bit more detail. The reason why is that you have a context window. And that context window is literally what you is basically it's kind of a behind the scenes think of it as a behind the scenes window that's taking your prompt, the thing that you're typing in at the window, and then going back and working with the AI model to figure out what is the most precise response. And it's doing it through the use of what's called tokens, which you may have heard before. It's basically tokens are just basically your prompt words broken down into stems and pieces. And then what the context window does is that it looks at all that and decides what is the best response to your prompt. Now, AI has been getting much better at this over time. It's basically statistical, more or less, but it's getting much, much better at it. Think of it as a quarterback with a high accuracy passing rating, and you kind of get the idea. So, what you want to do with a good prompt is to want something that establishes a structure that tells that context window, particularly if you're talking about for business items, what the workflow is and what it looks like. So a good starting point to try to think of a use case, which is what you should be thinking about before even prompting. A use case is just a fancy phrase for saying purpose, but it also means thinking about the steps in getting to that purpose, which often for business owners, that means thinking about your resources in order to deliver something, or and in a lot of cases, thinking about your customers and your market, what things that they might experience as well. Those two things are kind of part of what your considerations are for the purpose. And one of the things that you can kind of use to help get into that is a technique called OKRs. And these OKRs, to be honest with you, is more of a metrics and analytics step, but it's still a process step that you can use for almost anything. And in this case, you can use it to help you organize your ideas. You want to think of an objective or a purpose, what is it that you want to do, or where is it you're trying to go with something? And then the key result, which is the KR's part, is really just the tasks that lead into that. So if you are trying to come up with a presentation, again, your objective might be, what are the things or messages that you want that presentation to convey? And then the KRs or the key results would be what are the key pieces that support those topics for your messaging. It's the same type of thing when you're thinking about this for a prompt. You want to think about a purpose for what it is that you're trying to get to, and that purpose should be leading you into some sort of steps, which an AI model can help you with, either with those intermediate steps or in the case of agentic, taking over those steps for you. Okay. So planning a prompt. So this is something we didn't dig into very deeply with the AI for Dummies, but we're going to take a couple of slides to talk about this. Planning your prompts means thinking about how you want to convey those objectives and those key results. And there's a lot of ways to do this. We'll touch upon some of the terms, but I think the simplest way of doing this is thinking about the information you convey in a prompt. So that means a role, telling the model what it should imagine itself as. This is important because it puts a context to things. So, for example, if you are a marketer and you are the marketer of retail of shoes for a retailer, you might ask the AI to think of itself as maybe one of your potential customers, and you might describe that customer in terms of demographic, activity, and interest to give the model an idea of what is associated with the prompt for the general question. Context is relevant details behind the query. And this could be a little bit more about what you're asking. So in a prompt, again, using that shoe analogy, you can think of it as, as a shoe customer, what are the types of shoelaces that might be of interest or has been growing or topic of interest? You might even put something even more specific. What are those type of items? How those items are being mentioned online? So that AI model can help you with that. Then the output is just simply what is it that the format that you need the information in. And for business, and for nonprofits, that can take a lot of different forms. It could be an image of a customer tying with a particular shoelace. I know shoelaces are a little general, but that could be one idea. It could be a report or some sort of table summarizing information from other online sources, industry sources that might tell you something about the market for a certain running shoe, for example. But it should be some sort of specific output. Now, format has come into play in the last few years. So you can think of it as you can have your format for your output could be a table, it could be a type of image as a JPEG, you could be a presentation type. And this is where models can have some limitations, which we can get into as we go forward. Sometimes they're used to PowerPoint, sometimes they may not be able to do PowerPoint. I know Claude, for example, can do PowerPoint, but not Keynote, which is the Apple version of Microsoft's PowerPoint. So there may be some things you want to pay attention to in terms of what a model can produce. And then this last bit, we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but exemplars is just a fancy word for saying maybe elements that might be used over and over again. And when we talk about projects, we're going to talk a little bit about how to address that. There's a really neat way of addressing this, but these might be elements that you may be asking the prompt to include. It might be a logo for your business. It might be a set of ID numbers that maybe is in an attached CSV file. Those sort of things are also important in a prompt as well. Now, keep in mind, I think the biggest thing to keep in mind for prompts in AI, and there's a lot of different types. There's what's called a one shot, a few shot. There's another one called chain of thought, which we'll show on the next slide. But I think the biggest thing you want to keep in mind is that many times we treat AI models as search, where we just type in our question and what have you. But as you kind of saw from the previous slide, you want to get to some detail that gives an example. This is from a white paper that gives a perfect example of what can happen if you don't give an example. So this person gives a question, okay? Roger has so many tennis balls, and it kind of gives the sequence basically. So this first sequence here, question and answer, is supposed to show how the answer was derived. And then the user actually asks the real question that they want. So in this case, there's an example, just like you have roles and detail. And then we're trying to give, the actual question that we want. What's the output? And in this case, it gave a wrong answer. It gave the answer of 27. So that's not quite right. If you think about this, we had 23 apples. If they used 20, what is the, if you need 20 to make lunch and then you bought 6 more, how many apples you have left? It's not 27. The answer really should be 9. So what has to happen here is, let's see, go forward. Let's see. Hang on, it's not going forward. There we go. So what we want to do is have a chain of thought where in the answer, you're not just giving an answer, you're giving the reasoning behind how the answer was derived. So in this example, update, instead of just having the answer being 11 from this first example, you still have an example here, and then giving a little detail how the answer 11 was calculated. And once that was done, when this was requeried, the answer came out to be 9 rather than 27. So the key takeaway from this is that you want to keep in mind with prompts all the time, and you'll hear some terms: one shot, few shot, chain of thought, which is what this is right now. It's a chaining, showing you what the thought process or the reasoning is, and then having it mimic that. But the point of this is to allow you to, you should consider the fact that the prompts really do need some guidance at some level, and you need to be ready. You can always ask a single question sometimes. It sometimes has some memory to do it, but you need to be ready to describe the detail, because if you don't, just like a quarterback, it might throw that football, but it's going to throw it out of bounds, or it's going to ground the football, or you don't want a quarterback who's constantly throwing Hail Marys when maybe you need it to understand when to just throw for a few yards. So that's basically the analogy you want to keep in mind. So what this means is that prompts have limits. Again, I mentioned about the context window. The context window, they've gotten better over the years. There's actually Most of them now, I think, are over 1 million tokens, which is pretty good. Some maybe two, two, three, maybe tens of millions, basically. And so what that means is that a context, like I said, context window is taking your prompt and takes your actual words and can even take even your files and break them down to what's called tokens. And then when it looks for an answer, it's looking for statistical, it uses basically, for lack of a better term, a level of statistics to make a matchup between the two. So there's a little bit, when you do statistics that way, there can be a little bit of imprecision. Example I give on here is it's a little bit more about programming, but it's sort of the same thing. It can give an example of code that works, but it may just be very basic, and it's not going to be, unless you give guidance, it may be so basic that it might overlook more efficient ways of doing a calculation. And it's the same thing when it comes to drawings, the same thing to come to detail. We're kind of beyond the age of those of the early years where we had those six-finger drawings, basically, but it doesn't mean that we don't give detail, which is what you should be doing. So what sort of things you want to keep in mind with a prompt? Well, there's some simple things you want to keep in mind. You want to I mentioned about being precise and saying what to do when you write, summarize, and extract information, and give specific guidance instead of just saying, it's in a few sentences. Actually, tell how many sentences that you want to have an explanation. Briefly, it will go. Even if you said something like the word briefly, models tend to kind of chat on their own to fill up the gap, and sometimes it can be just brief enough, but you sometimes may want to say out, in a few sentences, tell me what this is, or define this for me to give me a simple response. Um, you may want, and this is something I think is getting a little easier now, but you may want to keep a thesaurus or even a Wikipedia page handy. If you're stuck on words trying to create for a specific prompt, sometimes having something that helps you to kind of find other words can be helpful if you're stuck on phrasing. I know a lot of people who use Midjourney, which is an online image generator, and they will use not only a lot of description, but they will also use terms like a type of camera, the type of lens, and even details about photography to get the image that they want. So that type of detail, sometimes having a rubric of some sort that can help, just like you would see in a class, having a rubric can kind of help you with some of the terms a little bit if you're getting stuck on some ideas. Um, and then other things to keep in mind, you want to leverage verbs to develop some clarity for your motto. So for this example, you instead of just saying you can use something like condense this if you are indicating this text or something maybe in an attached file. That can be sometimes be more powerful than just saying go rewrite it, because instead of just rewriting something, you're now telling it that it's going by saying condense, you automatically are saying you want it to be rewritten, but now want it to be somewhat brief. Real quickly, other common prompt rules. So things you want to keep in mind: avoid saying what not to do. You don't have the nice thing about prompts is that it's really much more about what it is that you want the model to do, and your no's. Things that you might say no to, rules. There's other ways you can kind of set that up. When we get to projects, we're going to talk a little bit about that, for example. But one of the things you want to keep in mind is that you don't necessarily, maybe a sentence may be okay, but if you find yourself writing a whole paragraph explaining what not to do, that might be extra, depending upon, that might be an extra use of tokens that you may not have to do. Most models are more affirming than anything else. So be affirmative when you describe something. Um, if you need structured output, and this gets into coding a little bit, it could be JSON or HTML, but it could also be PowerPoint. It could be an Excel sheet or a CSV file. Definitely stated. And then, ask the model to verify, how the conditions are being satisfied. If the model doesn't know the answer, it should just, you can tell it to say, just provide, just state that there's no information, that it shouldn't try to run on or try to make assumptions on your behalf. That's the part that you want to keep in control. And then finally, a step that you want to keep in mind is to ask the model to explain and then provide the answer. So that way the model is kind of telling you what the reasoning is. That part I think is pretty important. Okay, let's see here. Oh, give me one second. There we go. Let's see. It's not moving. Hmm. Why is it not moving? Oh, here we go.
You good?
Yep, I'm good. It's not for some. There we go. I think
Okay.
I was clicking on the. I think I was clicking on the PowerPoint, so apologize. Um, so now we talked about models. So the next part that we want to talk about is, well, actually, we talked about prompting. Now we're going to talk a little bit about models, and this is the part that has really changed since 2024. We were introduced, all of us collectively, to ChatGPT. Some of us may remember Bard, the predecessor to Gemini. Maybe Claude was just, a thought in the mind, and so was Perplexity. And we kind of saw these as an extension of chatbots in a lot of ways. The fact that we can sit and have these chats and so forth. Since that time, models have expanded to include different features where they act as agents, assistants, or as a gateway for agentic AI. Those are the big three. And what I want you to think about in these next slides is we're going to go through some examples, but I want you to, when you think about using AI, think about these three types because it's going to dictate what you not only what you're going to ask, but also in terms of what you will use in your own business. So let's start of agents and assistants. I'm using the Tony Stark example here. I know this is, some of us may not be, for those of us who are not Marvel, Tony Stark, Iron Man, played by Robert Downey Jr., basically created his own iron suit. He was his own superhero. But if you noticed, he had AI assistants in doing that. Early in the movies, he had an assistant, and this is an AI that gave agentic reasoning with human directive. So in other words, and this is what that image on the left-hand side is, you would see Tony in his suit or maybe sitting at his office and he was interacting with Jarvis. And so Jarvis would provide information, make adjustments, but Tony was in charge of that basically. So there was human directive basically around that. That's what an assistant is. It's some sort of AI that's helping you within your environment. So that's think Iron Man for that. And then the next one is agents, and this is where Jarvis, a little bit of spoiler for those of us who have not seen Marvel movies, Jarvis basically becomes a new character, Vision. He actually also becomes another character, Ultron, but the point of this is that he becomes something outside of Tony's suits and outside of Tony's office. He's still an agent, still artificial intelligence, but now there's a larger environment for him to interact with, to act. And in certain cases, he still interacts with humans, but he doesn't necessarily have to interact with Tony. So there's kind of a larger environment. So think of it as something agentic that has a little bit more creative initiative and a little bit more independent reasoning behind it. So that's the two ways of thinking about that. We'll get to the third in a moment. I kind of saved that one for another analogy. So for an agent example, the ones that we're kind of used to is ChatGPT, and of course the others as well, Gemini, um, Claude, Perplexity, and there's also local models as well. And this is anything that where we've talked to something within the chat window, kind of like almost like a chat bot. There are still agents, but they're kind of becoming more agentic because of the features that are being added. And that's what we're going to jump into a little bit more on. Um, doesn't mean that you can't ask questions, use it straightforward. It just means that it gives you more options when you're constructing content. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Hmm. Not let me go back and move. Okay. Let's see if it'll just let me select. Okay, we're going to select that one. For some reason, I think it goes into editing mode when I'm doing my arrow. So we're going to avoid that. So an example of this is using an AI browser for an assistant. And now I'm going to show you this. This is called Perplexity Comet. This is a type of, so I can get this up. What this is a browser that is used for AI. It's so you can use it just like you would Chrome or Microsoft Edge. And in fact, those browsers, traditional browsers, also have some access to AI. But the difference is that there's usually a chat feature right here alongside. So I'm going to call this up while we're here. Let me get this up on the screen so you can see this. Let me take this off for a moment. Uh, Actually, this is not the one. Give me one quick second here. She just had it. Chrome. I just had it here. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk through this basically. So, or actually, you know what? Here we go. Hang on. This is on the second screen. Give me one second. Let's shrink this down. Bring this down to the screen if I can. There we go. Okay. So this is Comet, okay? And what Comet can be useful for, and you may be thinking, well, why would I want AI in my browser? A lot of times your browser can be used to look at PDFs, and you can use the AI feature to summarize documents. This is a document, this is a little technical, it's an R programming document for a package. And a lot of times programmers are looking for these functions. It's basically a reference document. Now, the one problem is that this is alphabetical, which is fine if you already know the functions, but if you're starting off, you may not know what are the key functions to start with. So if I quickly type in, let's see if I can type this here so you can see it. List the top 5 functions of this. This was called Duck Spatial. Duck Spatial document. I'm just going to keep this really simple so you can see this. And we're off to the races. So what you should see on the right-hand side is going through, and it went through this PDF and started to list out this first functions, the ones that are really important. Might be helpful for, now this is a little bit more programming, so it might be helpful for someone who is just starting out and figuring out what are the most important functions to start with. But it can also be helpful for business leaders who are saying, hey, I have a document, maybe a government document with a lot of ID, a lot of information, and I need something to help me scan through this quickly. So this is what Perplexity Comet can do. There are other ones out here. Gia is another one, and there is one from ChatGPT called Atlas as well. All 3 of these have the same type of function, but the key to this is that you can use this for PDFs, scanning a web page, for example, that might be lengthy, and helping you to kind of get the lay of the land much faster. Okay, so given examples of agents and an agent assist, now I'm going to talk a little bit about agentic AI. And this one I was saving James Bond for. You may be scratching your head thinking, well, Pierre, James Bond is an agent. That is true. But if you go back through the movies, particularly these last ones with Daniel Craig as Bond, many times when Bond is on his adventures, he has to work with maybe another agent, maybe someone who he has to rescue from the bad guy. And then he also has constraints. The reason why I put this picture up is because I love the dynamic Bond has had in the last several movies with with Judi Dench in particular. I love Skyfall, basically. But the point of this is that as an agent, he has interactions and guidelines, and that's what agentic AI is. It broadens the canvas even further, where now you have different tools and devices that you work with. Now, I have to admit, this is a little bit advanced because there are other features out here that you may need to use, such as RAG. That stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's basically a database that you want your model to check with before it gives a response. Those sort of things are helpful when you know the data or I'll make it simple. The documentation that you need for your agent to work with is very extensive. But with projects, we're going to show there's a simpler way of doing it for just small teams. We'll talk a little bit about that. But the point I want to get across is that this is for if you know you have larger amounts of documentation, or maybe other devices that you need to work with your model to get a certain output done for either yourself or your customers. And this has been growing for a while because there's a lot of different options out there, just a lot. We won't go through all of them, but we'll go through, we're trying to stay to the simpler stuff. And I wanted to talk about this to give you an idea. So an example of a agentic AI, this is a little bit more programming, but I'll talk quickly to this, is Claude Code. And then there's also a sister competitor from ChatGPT called Codex. Now, there have been assistants in programming for all the people who do data and programming. However, those assistants usually are completing words. It's almost like a word completion, basically. Um, a variation of version control. What Claude Code and ChatGPT Codex does is that you can now give a prompt and it can write out the entire output. You still need to have some checks. You still need to put some guidelines together for it. Just like I said, agentic AI, you have to provide the guidelines for it. But you can set up those guidelines such that you now can get some work done a lot faster. And that's kind of the idea behind it. Projects. So let me get into, let's see, we're running on time here. Let me get into this a little bit. This is, I think, is the most important piece. If anything from today I talk about, this is something I think you should be exploring. I mentioned before that with AI, we usually treat them as sort of a chat bot. We get the chance to ask questions and so forth. But when we get to create prompts, which is great, and I mentioned about detail. But what if you have detail that you have to repeatedly bring in each and every time that you do a prompt? It might be a logo. It might be guidelines for how you create a contract document, maybe a contract that you want to send to a customer or client. Those sort of things can get a little tiresome, to be honest with you. And you also are dealing again with the context window where it's statistical. It doesn't always, how can I put this? There's reliability, but it's up to a certain point. And if you have too much in the context window, there can be you can kind of make errors that you didn't expect along the way. So what can you do about this? Well, this is a big feature that's been rolled out in the last year. Perplexity has it, ChatGPT has it. I'm a Claude fanatic. I'm going to show you my Claude. But Claude has it, and it's called projects. And so what it is it's a memory cache of instructions and files that you add to give it instruction to check first before it creates a output from your request. So I'm going to show you my projects real quickly so you can see this. Let's see here. Okay. Now you should see on my screen, this is my Claude account. And right here is projects. Projects shows up on the left-hand side for Claude and ChatGPT. And it's a feature that is available on the free version with limited memory. I know ChatGPT will only let you upload up to 5 PDFs. On the paid version, there's more memory and more instruction. But what this allows you to do is to create a project. I'm going to show you with a sample project here. If I can get to it. Actually, I don't see. Here we go. This is a how to use Claude. And so what this does is that you set up instructions. First of all, this is our chat window that we normally have, like we have in Claude. But then over to the right, we have instructions over here. We have there's actually a couple of things in here. There's one part called memory where you can write out instructions. Literally just, and it doesn't have to be anything in syntax. It could just be very simple instructions. You can put URLs, giving example files. And then you have files that you can attach. And these could be PDFs. They could be PowerPoints. And there's an asterisk, I'm going to explain that one. It could be CSV files. These things, the model will check first when you query. So to show you this, let me show you real quickly on my, this is my Medium articles project. And just to explain, I do a lot of writing for Medium. And when I do, I have a certain structure that I want my articles to have. If I did not indicate that to Claude, I would be retyping the same type of prompt over and over again. So in my instructions, this is I'm going to click this so you can see this. So in my instructions, I have a number of things that I'm telling it to not do, to do and not do, for punctuation, type of language, style and tone. I have example articles right here so that so it has something to draw upon. So I have and some other pieces in here about code examples if I have it. Um, and then you can even put down, they can even put simple, this is where you want to put some, do not do this. Like for example, when I started using this, it kept having the bottom line as my closing line. And I kind of didn't like that. So I kept telling it, do not use the phrase bottom line as a subtitle for the final section. You can be that explicit. And so what you end up with, I'm going to show you one of mine so you can see this, is a little bit more simplicity in the request. I'm asking it to list the key features for a platform and for this article. And I also given it a little bit of another article as guidance. And then what it does is that it will run through the reasoning each step by step, and it gives a lot of features on here. And what it ended up doing was actually coming up with a new article, something that would be distinct from what I found as research and allows me to kind of come up with my own. And that's what it makes the question and the back and forth much simpler for you.
Pierre, I go to the next page. Hold on for a second.
Go to the next.
I think it's stuck. Are you on projects?
I'm on projects and I'm showing, you should see Medium articles, Hugging Face. No?
No.
Okay.
It says ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude.
Okay. All right, so it didn't show my, oh, you know why? Because it was, all right, you know why? It didn't show my, hang on here. I know why. I know why. Hang on.
Yeah, it's not advancing, so.
Okay, here's why. Because what we did, I forgot, this was on share only on the PowerPoint. Let me do this. Hang on. Entire screen. I'm gonna do it this way. Now, here we go. Now do you see my browser? You see it? Okay,
it
yeah.
Says list the key feature of Hugging Face.
Yeah. So
okay.
let me go back to this real quickly. I know I'm trying to keep us on time here, so allow people to. So this is my project. And again, just to explain again, it is chat, just like you would ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. But what you're doing is giving instructions. But this is useful if you do a lot of writing. You're giving instructions to tell the model to check those instructions first and then start dealing with your query. The advantage of this is that if you have documentation, like again, for the chamber, let's say if Helena had she had beyond the logo other key text that it should incorporate, she can put that in the instructions. And so then when she queries to say, hey, can you create this document with these specific things unique to her customer? What that model will do, it will go through the instructions first and then go through the query and then create the document. And so it allows you to streamline your prompts so that way you're not spending a lot of time retelling the same information over and over again. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. But this is, I think this is an important feature because for workflow, it just makes some things a little simpler. And I think for professionals, whether you are a creative, whether you are whether you sell insurance, it will force you to start thinking about what are the things are, the exemplars, what are the things that are repeatable? And if I'm creating documentation over and over again, what should I tell my model to have ready for me when I do it? And the sky's the limit on what you can do. With one quick note, I'm going to say there is a file limit on here, and for some reason, Claude. I love Claude because it works the best. But for presentations, I'm going to show my presentation ones. This helped me for presentations when I need to share or cross-share material. but you can see here the files are a little bit larger. Presentations are always been sort of a bugaboo. They usually are pretty large files. So keep that in mind if you're trying to do presentations that you may have some limitations on the files you attach, but there's no limit on the instructions. Okay, so let's get back to, we're gonna cover these. So this is projects. We got a couple of slides to go here. Connectors. Now, connectors are a little bit different. They're kind of almost like the agentic browsers, basically, where you're bringing AI into a spreadsheet or into a developer IDE or to a Word document or to a PowerPoint or some sort of software environment for you. There's a number of these. The one that's not shown right here, which I think is interesting, is there is a Canva connector for Claude, which is really great. And that's a big deal. Claude is not really the best for presentations. Really, Gemini does a lot with imagery, but they've been catching up in the last year or so. And one of the things they've done is they put a connector in with Canva where you can actually use that to create images to support your business much faster that way. So it's something that you want to check out with a model to see if there's connectors already for maybe a software you want to use. Let's see here. So we got a few minutes. I'll breeze through these last couple. We got about 3 slides to go through. Notebook LM is a type of note taker, and this is one you've probably heard of quite a bit. It used to be a standalone app, but it's now been blended more and more with Gemini. Now this is useful for inserting a lot of different links to notes, ranging from web pages. It specializes in YouTube channels, so you can do a lot of summary from YouTube's that can help you if you have video that you need to go back and get some sort of translate for it. And you can also use it to maybe think about new types of videos, things that you may want to iterate on. That's one feature with AI that I think that's one type of thing you want to keep in mind with AI with its features that you can figure out where to iterate and what might be great ideas to build upon. That's helpful for videos. It's definitely helpful for presentations. But Notebook LM is a really good note taker for that. And so this is a great way of kind of getting some notes together. Deep research is a little bit more specialized. This is basically, it's basically a switch that you see in the chat. It's available. Perplexity was one of the first ones that did this. Claude has it, ChatGPT has it, Gemini has it. It's all basically a switch that you would see right here in the chat window, in the context window. For Claude, if it's white, it means it's not activated. So you need to select it. And what deep research does is that it also, this is great when you know you need to bring a lot of reasoning from a lot of different sources, just like kind of almost like a notebook LM, but much more advanced because there's more resources for you and you're not sure of what ones that your AI model is using. So this is going to give a lot more detail. It's much useful if it's usually used around white papers, but I would say if you know that there's a lot of detail for government agency and documentation, really useful for that. Okay. And then I'm going to touch upon a video here for a moment. I had an example, but I didn't get a chance to vet it through before the presentation. But I would say that there's a lot of video now. But most of them are designed, you can use prompts to kind of come up with video ideas. Cdance is a good example. They actually have one here where you can actually try out a product video, create a product video, something that shows features around product. In this case, this is a woman with a purse. Now to do this, this is for video, you need to think of a storyboard. And this is something where, again, you kind of use that OKR's use case thinking and think more about, use that storyboard to plan out a beginning, maybe your transitions that you want to have, and maybe an ending. And think a little bit also about what the features that you want to highlight. Focusing on 3 features, 4 might be a lot, but it should help you to kind of bring those things together. And then again, make sure that that video relates to a use case.
Pierre, we have like 9 minutes. You want to do Q&A?
Yeah, we can do that. I'm on the last slide anyway.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll quickly end on this. So So all these tools and everything else, the one big thing I want you to do is plan a dojo for your AI. It does take a little, this is software. You've been dealing, if you're a business owner, you've been dealing with software from the very beginning, from Excel to PowerPoint to even your website is software. You just don't call it software. AI is no exception to this. And every time you deal with software, you need to plan out some time. I usually give myself 20 to 25% of what time I know I'm working in my business to kind of go over, look at features, try to work through and figure out how something has worked, what the experience is like. Give yourself some time to kind of get used to the tool that you want, and then document what it is that's working for you and what's not working for you. Definitely doing that will give you a good start at the beginning, and it should feel a little easier as you move forward. That's one of the biggest takeaways I want to give for this. So with this in mind, I know that we're pretty much at 8 minutes. I want to answer some questions. So why don't we jump into that right now?
Okay, first of all, while I'm asking the questions, put your email in the chat because people have asked that.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Let me go through this. Now, your presentation, I got a couple of questions on that. This isn't for free. There are different plans that you have to pay for, correct?
Yes, there are some for like the projects one. That is available on the free version for ChatGPT and on the free version for Claude. They just rolled that out recently, but it's limited by memory, and a lot of times these models are limited by the number of times that you can chat with it. So when you pay the $20 for the Pro, which I think is just fine for most people, you get more access to memory, you get more access to the tool. And like I said, for projects, that folder I was showing where you can upload, there's a limit on the file size with the free versus the paid.
Perfect. And for those who are asking for AI for Dummies, it is on Chamber TV. Pierre, do you remember what date it is?
It was December of 2024. I remember
Just
that.
go through. It's all listed there. Just look in December of 2024. You'll be able to see it. It is on Chamber TV, which is on chamber.nyc. Pierre, does AI have a plagiarism detector?
There have been, I can tell you off the bat, that's been a big discussion in the academic circles quite a bit because they're trying to figure out how to encourage students to do AI, but not leave all the thinking to the writing. The one point I would say off the bat is I showed a lot of stuff with writing. I still have to edit. So I don't just create it and then lop it over to the editor. That doesn't happen at all. I have to, for example, for Medium, I still have to go through the programs for those to make sure it works. And then sometimes it has made errors on assumptions about functions. So I have to do a lot of debugging for that. So my suggestion is for any type of writing, whether it's technical or whether it's something like, maybe for an article, you have to read through that. AI tends to be flat. It doesn't allow, and it can be so flat that even though if you're giving instruction on how to follow, you still may need to make adjustment to it.
And
It
also,
does
if you
simplify.
copy and paste and you don't, there is a reference that it is AI. I've noticed that with me. So there's like a little symbol. So make sure you clear out that symbol if you are copy and pasting. Real quick, Pierre, how come you didn't mention Copilot?
That's a good one. Copilot, there's actually two Copilots. There's a Microsoft Copilot, which is used for Excel and for Word. And that one is actually, I haven't used it extensively as much, but I would say that also is an assistant. And GitHub, there is the thing I've always heard is that the underlying model is the same, but its application is much more for developers. But whether you use Microsoft Copilot or GitHub Copilot for the IDEs, it's still an assistant that's helping you within the confines of the software that you're using.
What do you think of Claude's Chrome extension?
Okay, that's a good question. I have not used the Chrome extension. I've basically used Claude. I've used Claude more around the IDE more than anything else. There's an actual extension where you can use Claude Code, and actually bring that in for a developer. But not for the browsers. I have not used it directly for that. Most times I've actually used Perplexity Comet, and I particularly like that. But there's a lot of ones that have come out in market since Comet has. So you have a lot of different choices out there.
Someone just asked, do you just download Perplexity Comet?
Yeah, you can download it. You can.
Okay. Copilot. How does one update a project's memory file when there are additions to the organization?
Oh, terrific question. And there's a very simple answer. When you go into projects, let's see if I can get this up real quickly. If I didn't close it. It's really, yeah, here we go. So really, right, you can always go back into the instructions right here on the side, and there's an edit here. So you can always go back and edit either, and I would say after, don't leave this on autopilot. There may be articles that you may find that better represent how you write. There may be instructions that you may want to make adjustments on. You can always go back and edit. So that's the short answer is that when you go into projects into the corner, which is usually on this left-hand side, um, you have a projects main menu and you can have projects for different purposes. Go into the one that you have a purpose and then go into the instructions on the left-hand side or right-hand side.
Yeah, someone asked, is there a way to add to the project's memory file? I think you just covered that again.
Yeah. And you
Yeah.
can, yeah, you can upload files in there. It's a great way for small teams and for simple documentation. I think if you have a lot of documentation, something that goes into a database, that might be a whole different, that would mean thinking of agent and a RAG to put that together. And that you need to bring some special expertise to bring that in.
Okay. And you went over how to create agents to help maximize workflow, correct? That was earlier, right?
That was, yeah. This is all these are agent selections that will allow you to work more efficiently. I tried to pick ones that didn't get into programming because that's a whole different how can I put this? You need to organize around what you want and then actually understand some of the specifics about APIs and connection and that type of thing. So I didn't want to get into that too deeply because
Yeah.
I didn't want to go down that. You have to know how far down the rabbit hole you want to go.
Pierre, did you say OK ARCs, ARCS?
OKRs. OK and the letter R.
Oh,
Object
okay.
key results.
Okay. Place of will, Pierre. He posted the information. If you have everyone, it is being recorded. It will be on Chamber TV. Pierre, they want to know if that, because the SBA, they usually get the slides. I don't know if you're comfortable with sending me the PowerPoint.
I can do that. I can do that once we're done. And
Yeah,
just
give us some time. If you have to email me, and then Pierre will send it to me and we'll forward it over. But it will be on Chamber TV. I'll download it. Just give me we just came off of World Trade last night, so just give me everything will be up and running on Chamber TV by this afternoon or tomorrow morning. My email address, if you want the request, is Helena, not ENA. Helena, my mom tricked everyone. It's Helena, HELANA at chamber.nyc. Thank you so much, Pierre, for this informative webinar. AI is where it's at. There's so much information here. We will be probably doing a follow-up maybe during the summer or the fall because it's like the internet. When we started with the World Wide Web, everything changes very quickly. So everyone, Pierre, first of all, thank you again for your time, for your expertise, for your information. Again, this will be on Chamber TV. We're one day away from the long weekend. We will be closed on Memorial Day. Everyone have a safe, happy, healthy holiday. And we don't have an online networking this Tuesday. Go ahead, Pierre.
I was going to say also, real quickly, just to let everyone know, I am going to send out a flyer. I'll follow up with
Oh,
Elaine on the emails. You'll get a discount if you need any sort of analytics or AI work. if you take delivery by by June 30th. It's a thank you for attending. No obligation, but it'll be a flyer for as initial work. We're probably going to go up on some of our pricing to kind of allow for teaching as well. So this is kind of a way of saying thank you to you and allowing you to kind of get some grace as well. So
Perfect. Thank you. So, you want to put the flyer? Can you attach it into the chat? And they
yes, I can. Give me one quick second if I
so
can.
for those who are on, he's gonna attach it, and this way you guys have it immediately.
Okay. There we go. You should see a flyer, Zamana AI flyer as a PDF.
Oh, there you go, everyone.
So definitely bring that towards me.
Perfect.
And again, if we work with you before June 30th, you'll get a discount off our services. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you're not a member of the chamber, join us so we can connect you with our database of 30,000 different business and civic leaders. Don't forget this Tuesday, since we're coming off of a holiday, we will not be hosting the online networking, which is usually Tuesdays at 10 o'clock. So we will see you the following Tuesday, which is the last week of May. Oh my God, I'm already into June. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Enjoy your one day away from the holiday. Bye, Pierre.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Attachment is in the chat.
Yes, it is.
Okay. I got a couple of people said
It is in there.
if if you
Oh,
haven't,
wait. Pierre, you did it to do it again to everyone. Let me see if I can.
oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, hang on, everybody. Hang on. Sorry about that. I didn't see that said panelist. Hang on here. Let me do one more time.
Just change it to everyone.
Yep, hang on. Oh, hang on. That didn't. Let me do this one more time.
Let me see if I can just I can't drag it.
I got it.
Okay.
So let's hang on for a moment. Everyone should. I know a couple people said
Yep,
they
you
couldn't
got
get it.
it in. I'll keep
Okay.
it open for a couple more minutes.
Yep. Someone said crazy how Zoom gets us all. Yes.
They keep, you know what? They keep on changing things, and when you're used to the way it is, so yes. So everyone download his flyer that he just put on at 12:03 to everyone stayed on. It was great. Okay. Thanks. Got it. Good. Good. Not there. It is there. It's the 12:03 one. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Got
You
it.
got it.
Okay.
Perfect. I'm just gonna
Thank you. I'm
keep it
glad I'm
open.
glad a lot of people got informed. Let's see. Sean, if you go up 11:0, it's gonna be say it'll say
12:03.
12:03 Eastern time, but you should see it at that mark.
It's in the chat at 12:03.
Donna, same thing. Look at the mark at 12:03. If you're on Central Time, it'll say 11:03, but you'll see it. Look at the 03.
Well, what most of them are on.
Chat won't let me access it. Okay. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what, Elena. If you have it, I'll follow up with you on the email.
Yeah.
We can resend it
Put
that
your
way.
email in one more time so they can email you.
Okay.
Just type it in.
Yep.
Or I could copy and paste it. It's up to you.
Oh, I got it.
There you go. P. DeBois, DEBOIS at Zimana.com.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone, have a great day. I was going to say stay cool, but stay warm now. Yeah.
Thank you for
Bye,
coming out.
everyone.
We appreciate it, and we'll look forward to the follow up on this as well. So,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye, everyone.